Hey Rex, Andy here. Before I start writing lengthy books of how to use the Sabre and all of that, I figured that I would just make a short rundown video of the typical handling and also how I planned it so that you know what to do. I already wrote to you that this Sabre is now fitted with a Teensy Sabre board. So what the Teensy boards do not have is a deep sleep mode. So you will have to remove a kill key every time you want to use the Sabre, otherwise the battery is going to drain unnecessarily. Very easy, you just unscrew the pommel, as with the other Sabres that I made. Pull out the chassis just a little bit, and there's your charge port. And while I have this open, I also wanted to tell you that the Teensy board, I have not mounted it solidly because it's not necessary. And for this, you can sort of pitch it up just a little bit in order for you to be able to plug in your micro USB plug cable so that you can program the board. Underneath that is the SD card. You can also get a hold of that. It's a little bit tricky because it's so small, but you do get it out if you hold it up a little bit, and then you can just draw it out with a pair of thin pliers or tweezers or something like that. I taped the top so that it wouldn't contact any of the metal inside of the hilt, and yeah, that's about it. So if you just leave it in its position, push the chassis back inside, it's in there solid, doesn't make any sound or anything like that, it's perfectly fine. So I would really not glue it down or anything like that, it's not necessary. Okay, then you pull out the kill key. The board comes to life. Then you can put back your chassis. Close the pommel. Yeah, the blade. Blade attachment, very easy. At the top you've got this little marking. That lines up to the top. Just push that in until you hear it sort of set, and then you can close your retention screw. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to tell you that because I liked it so much on the other Sabre, I added the little contacts for you. I did that yesterday evening because it just looks so nice, and I figured I'd do you that little favor because it really adds to the realism of this opening that I put into the right shroud. Okay, so when you start up the Sabre, just hit the power button. First blade color, that's the Teensy version. And when you want to switch it off again, you just hit the button again, and then it stops. When you want to switch profiles, you use the aux button in the off state. You just press the aux button,
Smooth Jedi,
and it will give you the little announcement from the sound file that will give you the next font. These are all, I don't know if you can hear it, smooth swing fonts. With the Plector boards, you have to sort of hold on to the ignition button. With the Teensy, you just press it once short for ignition, once short again for turning it off.
Smooth Jedi,
Just have a bunch of fonts on here that you can switch in between. This is the Tron blade.
Smooth Gray,
Fireblade. Don't know if you can see that properly. The blaster effects and everything is via the aux button, obviously. And it behaves differently with every font.
Smooth Fuzz,
Nice even blade.
Rogue
One of my favorites, the Blue Fire blade. That's the one I was been playing around with. Oh, I forgot to show you. Of course, the crystal mimics this as well. So when the blade has the strobe effect, then you also have that in the crystal. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but the crystal, when the blade is off, but the blade plug is pulled, it has a very slight green glow to it. That is due to the fact that there is no resistor in front of the NeoPixel that powers the crystal, and this is one of the things also that will bleed the battery dry if you leave it lying like that without the kill key. So you always have to insert the kill key when you're not using the Saber for a prolonged time.
Smooth gray.
Yeah, all kinds of different fonts. Like I said, you can reach the SD card also by just very slightly pulling up the board and then pinching the little SD card. It sits sandwiched in between the, I'll show you, sits sandwiched in between the two boards, the actual Teensy board and the Teensy Saber board that Professor did. I don't know if you can take out the blade so that I can... I don't know if you can see it. Right in between there is the SD card. Okay? Good. Please be careful also to not twist the chassis too much, because the connection to the control box and also to the blade emitter and also to the crystal chamber, that works so nicely because I have a wired coil that sits in it, like a spring almost. And that is just perfect as it is seated like that, but you should try not to twist the crystal chamber too much, because that will upset the coil that is in there. So always try to keep this oriented up. It's no problem if you know it. And the speaker sits behind this frame that I built in order to have the resonance chamber. It is just attached ever so slightly with hot glue, because it's a covering into the main chassis. And this you can remove carefully in case you need to switch out the speaker for some reason or whatever. I'm just saying that's how it's done. This is very thinly hot glue just applied. You can peel it off with a knife. It's a little bit fiddly, but it works well. And then you can just pull it out to the bottom. It's the little frame over here that goes over the top and over the sides. And you can pull it in this direction down, and then the speaker will come out. But I'm hoping that will never be necessary, because I doubt very much that these speakers will break. Oh yeah, I have to put in the kill key again. Like that. Chassis back in. Close it up. And that's done. The software and all of that for the Teensy Saber board is something that you just have to yank off the web. Then you can find all the instructions for that in the very lengthy thread that you have already clicked on. And so I'm very sure that once you read about it a little bit, then you'll figure out it's very simple to do. At the moment, you've got a lot of fonts on there that you can play around with. Okay. Oh, by the way, the battery that is in here, it's a 18650, but it's an unprotected battery. I did this because I don't really need the protected batteries. I use a charger for these LiPo batteries, and so this charger will cut off when it reaches the full capacity of the battery. When the battery starts to get low in its capacity, you will hear a very distinct crackle in the speaker. And immediately after that, it will not light the blade anymore. That is a very healthy 3.05, 3.1 volts that is still left in the battery. This is perfectly fine as an empty capacity for these batteries. So if you just not try to use the Saber once it starts to crackle from the speaker, or when the blade starts to act funny, then everything is fine. All you have to do then is just recharge it again. I don't like the protected batteries for the reason that they always sort of that the protection circuit is in between the maximum power output of the battery and what it can actually do. So I sort of tend to rather have it working this way, because the protection circuit is actually only for these reasons, that it doesn't get overcharged or it doesn't get super low discharged, which it doesn't do, because the Sabre will just stop working way before that, because the Teensy board wants more of a power level than what the battery will give it then. So this is something that works perfectly fine, works for all of my Sabres. I've never had any problems with that. I'm just telling you so that you know. Okay. I can't think of anything else aside from the Sabre is quite sturdy, but I really wouldn't do heavy dueling with it, because it's made of a numerous amount of components. You've got the front end emitter, you've got the hilt part in the back, attached only by the shrouds. It is solid, everything is fine, but I would really not want these screws to work themselves out of the back hilt, because the walling is rather thin. It has a few threads in there, but that's not what I would do with it. I mean, usually you grab it in the front, obviously, and that's how you would maneuver it around, because that's the better balance for the blade. But I'm just saying, for heavy dueling, I would use a single hilt blade or a single hilt construction where you don't have many parts that hold it together, because that's just the better thing. I would use a single part, one piece lathed hilt for that purpose. This is something that's supposed to be more of a beauty, but it is sturdy. But like I said, heavy dueling, not so the ideal thing. This is also not what it was designed or constructed for. I doubt that you would use it for that, but I'm just saying so that you know. Yeah, I would say that's about it. Can't think of anything else. If there is anything else that you need to know, you can always contact me. Aside from that, I really hope that you enjoyed the Sabre. You have something that I put a lot of mind and also a lot of heart into, and I'm really hoping that you will like it as much as I do. I still love these Sabres. I'm forever looking at them, and kind of proud of it as well. So I'm hoping that it'll be in very good hands with you, and I just hope you have a lot of fun with it. So, enjoy. Have a good one.